Hey, so I'm back home now. Just thinking about how today went, really. It was good, considering how much I kind of worked myself up about it and was worrying about what was going to happen. Everything I knew was right. So, I did let my fear get in the way a bit, but it's natural, isn't it? I'm up against something that's really scary when you think about it. So I can understand why people haven't really questioned it that much up until this point, because when I was actually in the courtroom, I'm glad I was after a couple of people and that we'd seen people before, so I could see how they were treated. And I was expecting them to be really harsh and really rude and really arrogant and stuff. And they were those things. I'm not going to say they weren't, because it's the job that is those things rather than the people. Because what I did notice as well with the magistrates and the clerk and the prosecutor as well is when this one lady was in there and she was in the dock and she was representing herself. And she was in there for something silly. She was drunk on train tracks or something, and she started crying and took full responsibility. And as soon as this lady showed some emotion, you saw all of the people working in the court. They responded emotionally. Their heart opened. They looked compassionate. You saw compassion and you saw love come from them. You saw humanity in them. You saw the human in them. And so I noticed that while I was sat there just observing, and I hadn't been called yet. They didn't know really what we were doing there, I don't think. Or they may have done, they probably did, I don't know. Anyway, when I saw that, and I saw a side that I thought I can appeal to this side of them. Instead of trying to be argumentative and cocky, I'm going to appeal to this compassionate human side I've just seen them display. Whether they meant to or not, even the prosecutor showed compassion and released compassionate energy towards this lady. Now, they still demanded money from her, and they still gave her something, because this is essentially what it's about for them. This is about money, and what I'm reminding them is that you're selling out humanity. So I got in there, and he said Hannah Shotbolt. He didn't say Miss Hannah Shotbolt. And I said, hello, I'm here regarding this matter. And I went and sat in the seat that I'd seen the defence solicitor sit in for the guy that came from prison. There was a guy that came from prison as well. He looked really shocked to see everyone sat there. But I sat in that seat, and I didn't stand up when he told me to or anything, so I was already stood up. As soon as the person left the court was in front of me, I knew I was next, so I stood up before he said anything, and then I just went and sat where I wanted. I had my eye on this seat, and I was like, that's where I'm sitting. And he said, can you go in the dock? And I just point back the food. I said, it won't be necessary. I'm going to present myself to you. I'm not going to represent myself, because this isn't myself, who you've assumed me to be. So I made clear that I didn't want anything to do with the legal name, because I don't have any rights to it. I don't own it. It's nothing to do with me. He has copyrights to his legal name, this clerk, and I pointed out that I knew that. At this point, the magistrates had already left. They ran out within about 30 seconds of me talking, actually, maybe 20 seconds. They didn't want anything to do with it. I don't think he said much to me at all. It was the clerk that I was talking to, and he got a bit uppity and stood up, and he wanted me to leave. He said, just go, I'm not going to deal with it. And I said I was there to deal with it. I'd done all of this in good faith. I was there under threat of kidnapping if I didn't go, and I got there, and they didn't want to talk to me. So it didn't make any sense to me. I was very confused by it all. So we hung around outside for a bit to see if anything would happen. This policeman, don't know where he came from. He came out of nowhere, but literally, I think people have been sending so much loving energy and positive energy into this, that this guy just manifests. He usually works behind a desk. That was the first day he'd been back in uniform. He said he hadn't been in uniform for 18 months. He came back that day. I personally believe that is divine intervention. He was supposed to be there, because that was one of my fears, was dealing with the police in Gloucestershire, because they are notorious for being dickheads. There's even a film about it called Hot Fuzz, made by, or Nick Clegg stars in it, and he's from Gloucester. They are just arseholes around here. And this guy literally was a godsend. And he was kind of mediating between the clerk and I, because the clerk was saying, well, if you're not going to get in the dock, well, you'll have to leave now, and we'll send out a warrant for your arrest. Now, this policeman was like, right, I'm a witness to her being here, so how are you gonna issue a warrant for her arrest when she's here now? Like, this is who you're saying you want. You want this person, but do you know what I mean? So I've proven to them now that I know I'm not this person, that I don't want anything to do with it, and that if they force me to do this, they'll be guilty of a capital crime. It's high treason. I don't know how aware of it they are, because people say to me, yes, they know what they're doing. And I personally don't believe that humans, okay, can get up and go to work knowing that they are screwing people over. I honestly don't think that's what they tell themselves. I think they tell themselves that what they're doing is protecting people and enforcing the law. I honestly think that, and which is why I don't want to make it a personal attack on the people that are employed in the system and are still in it, because it's not about that, because these are humans and I have seen that side of them. They're not corporations, which is what I was expecting, although that's the role they're playing. And I mean, the guy who was playing the security guard, he had a bit of a tiff with somebody because they said that he was doing it for money, that he was, do you know what I mean? And he accepted that, but people think that you need money, so they're doing all these awful things. It's like people in the army and stuff. It's all these awful things to pay the bills, and there are more important things. Do you know what I mean? So I'm happy with the outcome. I think I know that they're not going to do anything now. They can't, especially with all the documents I've served to them. Do you know what I mean? I've done all of this in good faith. I'm trying to stand up for rights and to show people that we have these rights. And these are rights. They're not privileges. We have the right to them. We don't have to ask for them. To ask for them implies that they're somebody else's to give to us. We just have to take them back. And so if anybody wants to start travelling instead of paying to drive, unless you're a taxi or you're a courier or something like that, you don't need a driving licence. In fact, to even hold a licence, if you look at where it came from, the word or the licence, it means you're a sexually depraved criminal to hold one, because travelling in itself is a lawful action. It's a lawful act. Because if it wasn't, licensing agencies would be licensing unlawful activities, and that's illegal. They'd be breaking the law. So in itself, it has to be fundamentally lawful for them to be licensing it in the first place. They've just tricked everyone into thinking you have to pay for this right, and you don't. And I've just proved it. So you can still download the documents as well. If you go onto the public page that I made, there's a different page called Hannah Rose, and it's got all the documents that I sent off to the Queen and stuff back in April, and the notice that I sent to the DVLA to say I don't want your licence. Because if you look at the act that they've charged me with, it's a driver and a vehicle, and you look up those words in law dictionaries, and I'm not either of those things. So why should I accept to be them if I know otherwise? It just seems silly to me, really. So I personally think it's over. I think it is. I think the system's coming down now. We're just too aware now. The information is too instantly accessible. It's the age of information. Do you know what I mean? And ignorance is a choice in the age of information, because all information known to man is instantly available on the computer in your pocket. You can think of a question and literally Google it there and then and get an answer. You might have to differentiate between some bullshit and the truth, but you know the truth by how it feels. So you can literally find out anything you want now. It's a very powerful time. But anyway, I'm off to celebrate, so I hope you've enjoyed my journey as much as I have. Namaste.